This area has been uninhabited for a long time, she thought to herself. His Majesty said this is just an empty palace, so it's not a big deal. He also said this place has a very beautiful scenery. At that moment, she quickly replied, then I want to go there. Another voice cut through her thoughts. The lakeside palace. L'Oreal shouted loudly, really? Will I really be transferred there, Miss Riel? The maids nearby also kept saying yes. Is this an official decision? But this wasn't mentioned in this morning's meeting. My uncle didn't say anything. His Majesty has already decided, so I think it's official. All your belongings have also been moved there. Really? Riola raised a question mark at those attitudes. Why is everyone overreacting? The next words from the maids made her stunned. You really don't know? Miss Riela, the lakeside palace is the queen's inner palace. The side of Hohan isn't peaceful either. Eisen spoke rapidly. Does His Majesty really want Riola to become his queen? Really? Why doesn't he take this opportunity to produce an heir? Wait, or is she already pregnant? He pondered, staring into space without answering. Suddenly, he crossed his arms and looked at him reproachfully. What did you just say to me? Are you insulting me? Eisen fell silent. A verbal duel was about to break out. He held his head helplessly. I'm just worried because His Majesty is rushing too much. Officials and nobles won't easily accept this, he said calmly. Since when did you start defending them? He continued. I think I want to join them and rebel a bit. Are you openly rebelling, Your Majesty? He frowned. But Hohan remained very calm, completely opposite to Eisen. Everyone knows I am deeply in love with that woman. I brought her back from the capital. Then what's the problem if I make her queen? They will just think I'm even crazier. He tried to explain, but only those who know nothing would think that way. Your Majesty, but that's not true, right? No matter how much you cherish Miss Riola, he seemed to see through his heart and continued. It made Hohan fall into deep thought. I know you won't let her become your queen. The luxurious room suddenly fell silent. Hohan spoke, breaking the silence with smiles but voices tinged with sadness. Yes, I don't intend to let Riola become queen. I'm just pretending. I can't let that beautiful girl become a widow. He sat upright before him. Please don't laugh when talking like that. At that moment, Eisen bowed his head, lowering his gaze. The dim light from the room flickered out the window frame. His voice followed and echoed. So this was also part of your plan? Riola was peeking behind the door, eyes wide when she heard Eisen's next sentence. I mean the great plan for your death. Your Majesty, Eisen thought of Hohan in his dignified manner. You have to endure suspicion of being a savage power seeker to reclaim the throne. And you accept being seen as a savage tyrant to eliminate the opposition by force and take back the throne. Not only that, you also bestowed titles on each of us. You did everything for those who will remain after you are gone. His mind continued to picture Riola, but now she was also involved in this matter. Today, Hohan sat on his bed calmly and replied, maybe so. His eyes held deep sadness. That woman must survive. To do so, she will need a title, even if it's just a superficial one. Eisen bowed deeply, heavy-hearted. Your Majesty, he immediately reminded. Bringing Riola to live in the lakeside palace is still not enough. You will also help her settle down, right? Both of you share the same fate. Ha ha ha, he smiled gently. The betrayal will end here, right? Riola peeked behind the door. Hearing that conversation, she froze, her hands trembling uncontrollably for a reason she couldn't breathe. She said to the guard, I request to leave first. He seemed startled. Are you done already? She replied, yes. Riola stopped to remind him, by the way, don't report to His Majesty that I just stopped by, okay? He looked puzzled. Excuse me. She immediately switched to lying mode. I'm planning to give a gift to His Majesty and don't want to spoil the surprise. He understood immediately. Oh, that's it. Okay, I'll keep it secret. Thank you, she replied. She just left, he muttered to himself. I'm jealous. That day was a scorching sunny day. Sunlight filtered through the tree canopy. Two maids stood at the door talking. Where has Miss Riola gone? It's still early, but she left early again. Once she is brought into the Emperor's palace, she will spend more time with the Emperor. She will get bored of him, so I don't know why she did that. Oh my god, she must be deeply in love. On the other side, footsteps echoed steadily. The door suddenly opened. Jess looked up, staring intently at the door. Riola stepped in, making Jess quite confused. What is she doing here? She could have gone straight to the isolation room. She gently spoke. How much longer does His Majesty have to live? His gaze remained unchanged. What is she talking about so early in the morning? But she still insisted on asking. Exactly, you said so yourself. Yes, His Majesty is suffering from a dangerous disease, and it cannot be cured. You said he doesn't have much time left. He quickly turned his face away. Muttering to herself that she shouldn't have been so drunk, Riola refused to give up and said, Tell me, you are a doctor after all. The conversation between the two continued in that room. To be precise, I am his doctor. Exactly. If you are his doctor, why haven't you found a cure for him? Jess frowned in frustration and shouted, What are you yelling about? You don't know anything to say that. How dare you? Her eyes welled up with tears. Seeing that, he had to bite his lip. Not daring to raise his voice any further, Jess held his head, exhausted, thinking to himself that today has been busy enough. He lowered his voice miraculously. As long as he is still alive, Riola stepped closer to the desk. What do you mean? Jess closed his eyes and covered his face. According to my prediction, His Majesty will not live long. Since last year, I didn't even know if he had time to reclaim his throne. She silently listened as he spoke. He began to feel very tired then, so we gradually gave up. At that moment, a group of mercenaries started causing trouble for us. Secondly, Jess withdrew his hand from his face, thinking this was really annoying, but he had to continue explaining. Anyway, he should have only lived for about 6 months. Moreover, he pushed himself too hard then, and even took some unknown medicine. He waved his hands and feet, not surprised if he didn't wake up. The next day, he finished speaking. The room fell silent like a sheet of paper on the table. Jess glanced away. Not understanding what was on his mind, Riola spoke softly, "I understand." Then she intended to say more, thinking to herself that she had many questions on the way here, but now, she closed her mouth tightly, swallowing the words she wanted to say. Doesn't that mean that at this moment, she could be separated from him from now on? How much longer? Her mind, Riola was flooded with thoughts and images. Hohan no longer in this world, then images of the two entwined together. These people planned the Emperor's death? How did it come to this? He remains calm and beautiful like the leader stream. Sometimes I just want to dive into his arms. I hate this cruel world when trying to take him away. Suddenly Jess spoke, breaking her thoughts. Lady Riola, let me give you some advice. She opened her eyes wide, listening attentively. Jess spoke seriously. Don't give him too much of your heart. His words weighed heavily on her. Her eyes gradually wanted to close. It's too late for us. We can't avoid this. Jess continued. Aizen will surely kill himself right after the Emperor dies. But can she still turn her back on His Majesty? Can she do it? He offered advice. I'm not telling you to betray him, just don't get too close. That's the best choice for your peace of mind. Riola interrupted. His Majesty has changed. He was startled. What? She showed no fear. He usually worried I would harm the Emperor, but now he worries about me. He lazily closed his eyes and replied. Then he suddenly paused, opening eyes filled with things unsaid. The two faced each other directly without avoidance. He began again. I didn't expect you to stand right there, making the face we usually make. Mariola blushed, radiating like flowers. Why is His Majesty so fascinated? Knowing everything made her feel somewhat relieved. Thank you for being honest with me, Lord Jess. His gaze gradually softened, no longer the same as earlier in the palace. Loud voices echoed to the door. Your Majesty, do you really want to take her as your wife? I told you I would bring her to the palace. I never said I would take her as my wife, but the Lake Palace area is used like the Queen's villa. Over many generations, everyone attentively looked toward Hohan, listening to him speak, right? To be precise, it is a villa area near the main area that once belonged to the third emperor. People want to enjoy the lake view. As far as I know, at that time, it was also used as the emperor's workplace. Why was it that only the queen used it before the magnificent palace? The meeting room still echoed with objections, but according to current tradition, Hohan stroked his chin thoughtfully. Should I appoint Riola Britannia as the new queen? He said something that made the ministers frown. If the ministers allow it, I would be very grateful. Some ministers spoke up. Even so, is it necessary to be in the Lake Palace area? Why not let her stay in the west side? He calmly replied that Riola Bernita needs a private office space. Today, Hohan continued to explain, the west area is too small and guests keep coming in and out. All other areas face the same problem. Everyone said in unison, an office space. Someone boldly raised their hand to speak. But why does that woman need office space? Hohan pressed his lips tightly and slowly explained, as the envoy of the Riola kingdom, she will be the diplomat between the two nations. All the ministers were shocked simultaneously. About to jump up. Excuse me, sir, what did you just say? Another man in a white suit. Handsome, standing with arms crossed, stood up. Are you saying Riola Bernita has authority as the envoy of the Riola kingdom? Since when? Everyone whispered. No way, this is too sudden. How can this be? Today, Aizen held a paper in his hand and declared clearly that the Riola kingdom sent a letter regarding this issue yesterday and promised to send an official statement along with the appointment letter. The ministers still did not want to stop, but why did the Riola kingdom suddenly do this? Hogan calmly responded, any kingdom has the right to appoint its own ambassador. The Riola kingdom expressed the desire to do so, so we have no other choice. We should also treat the diplomat with respect, so I hope you all understand. Hearing this, they still did not want to let it go, whispered among themselves, why don't you admit that you just want her to be your queen? This puts us in an awkward position, envoy. You didn't even give us a chance to counterattack. He seems to see us as redundant. Suddenly, someone spoke up. Please make the announcement, sir. Your Majesty. A long-haired man raised his hand to speak. Riola Granitor will stay and work at the Lake Palace as the envoy sent to the Riola kingdom. Isn't that right? According to regulations, that's how it is. The others saw it made sense. Good. That way, she will no longer be a problem. Hohan calmly looked at him, but his voice was threatened. So you refuse to accept her as the emperor's woman? Huh? He stood up, arms crossed. Unfortunately, I can't promise that. Seeing his attitude, the other man was scared. Speechless, he stood up and declared loudly, radiating brilliant charisma. Even before she was appointed as envoy, she was already my woman. Then added softly, besides, there is no law that the emperor cannot be beside the envoy, right? The ministers hurriedly left. The man in white crossed his arms and stood up, frowning. If that's the case, I guess that matter. Hohan crossed his arms leisurely, watching them leave the room. A long-haired man quickly passed by him, both tightly gripping hands and lightly touching each other. He had read his thoughts. Sir, he is not ready to give up just because of such a trivial matter. In my whole life, I've never met anyone so greedy. He heard every word in his head and glanced lightly. Aizen looked at Hohan with a probing expression. At that time, he was still busy thinking, feeling like it was just yesterday, when he was told to do something for himself once, but now he was seen as a greedy emperor. I guess I've made some progress. You stepped forward and asked Han, do you find this amusing? He waved his hand. No. You insisted, then I did as you told me. I found something interesting. Should I tell you? That day, Aizen stopped by and whispered as if doing something secretive. You might be the one to tell her. Riola entered with hair red like a rose. A gentle smile bloomed as he thought about what Aizen said, that she was getting a promotion unexpectedly. Your Majesty, she asked, did Lord Aizen say he was urgently looking for me? His expression then was like a child waiting for his mother to praise him for doing well. He cleared his throat, thinking, Aizen, that bastard. He didn't even bother to ask for permission, but it was great to meet her and then sighed softly, saying, I should be glad you're here. Back to reality, her hand leaned on one arm against the cold, the other hand placed on the table. Do you want to sit down for a bit? Riola gently said yes. She calmly sat down, observing his face. His eyes were passionate, hard to hide his infatuation. Thinking to herself, she would feel uncomfortable about this and would refuse immediately. Then hummed softly. First, Aizen stood nearby observing the situation, thinking silently that the old folks would faint if they saw their emperor struggling so much just because of one woman. Riola spoke up first. Your Majesty, what do you want to say to me? His hand was still empty, like some women in the market. Riola, I'm pondering your mission as an envoy for the Riola kingdom. But of course, it's the royal family who's ready to meet you, not me. Before he finished, she suddenly interrupted. Excuse me, that title is just for presentation. In reality, you won't be assigned any tasks, but you will have a very high position and power that no one dares to treat you badly. But in his mind, he thought, I should explain calmly so I don't shock her. So he continued explaining the position. Technically, your position will be supervised by the Riola kingdom, so you will be exempt from all political resistance in this land. She listened attentively, but it seemed there was still something unclear to her. So, at the lakeside palace, seeing her hesitate about that, he removed the doubt. The area by the lake will be used as your official office. However, only the exterior surface will be renovated to ensure your comfort during your stay. So don't worry. She held his hand tightly, sitting quietly, listening, softly saying, I understand, all right. Hearing Riola's answer, both Aizen and Hohan widened their eyes. What? He turned to look at him. How could she accept it so easily? Aizen shook his head. I don't understand either. Riola picked up the paper on the table, looking very hopeful. What should I prepare? You won't be assigned any tasks, but I also know the basics a little. You will read the books I approve. Should I ask Lord Jess for help? Ha ha ha, she voiced her thoughts. I thought you would be afraid or oppose the idea. She kept staring at the notice. I'm scared, but I don't oppose it. His tone became serious. Is there anything else you want? She answered immediately. Of course. He wondered what it was. She hesitated. Let me think, then suddenly smiled brightly. To advance further, honestly, I'm a bit excited about it. I guess I'm a little greedy for power. Hearing her answer, he was stunned for a moment, not believing his ears, then lowered his eyes and smiled indulgently. The two laughed and looked at each other affectionately. In the meeting room for a long time before the magnificent palace, that day was a sunny day. The sound of hurried footsteps, the maids busily cleaning, the door suddenly opened loudly. Capturing everyone's astonished eyes, a harsh voice shouted, making Riola turn her head. Are you joking with me, Jess? The coward said at length. You promised not to come near His Majesty. But now you own the entire lakeside area and the position of envoy. Do you really want to join his plan? With that man, it seems he still doesn't believe the truth now. Have you changed your mind when given the chance to get something back? Riola said nothing. He continued his performance. Do you intend to use him because you have influence over him? Hearing this, she felt annoyed and gritted her teeth. Lord Jess, he shouted loudly. What? She pointed to the pile of boxes far away. If you have nothing else to do, will you help me move that box over there? She continued. I said I understand your meaning, but I didn't say I would stay away from him. Jess crossed his arms. What? The maids busily cleaned in the large room. Their conversation kept echoing. His Majesty asked me today if there was anything I wanted, and I said yes, of course. Ha, I knew it right away. Riola in simple cleaning clothes but still radiated beauty. I want His Majesty to find peace for himself. You keep focusing on your work while talking. I hope His Majesty can be happy. So if there is something that makes him feel better when I am by his side, I will do it. Jess still tried to persuade, but listen, Riola interrupted, and I also want to help him. I want to be by his side and be happy. Hearing that, he immediately stopped and thought to himself that she was willing to be by his side and satisfied with her involvement. Lamb, but she didn't know he could die at any moment. She turned around and firmly looked into his eyes. What could make this woman so brave? Helpless before her stubbornness, he agreed. All right, but remember, I warned you before, don't pretend if it's too late and don't blame me. She happily replied, no. He got irritated. How could she be so confident like that? She is usually quite calm. Jess turned to carry the box of belongings and didn't forget to remind her again. And one more thing, she must not fall in front of His Majesty. Never, he shouted. She must continue to pretend not to know and appear strong. Do you understand, Riola? Teasing His Majesty, so keep it as your own idea. Sir Jess, he shouted even louder. Yes, I know. Unless you want to end like this, do better. Jess bit her lip as if wanting to cry, but still smiled brightly. For some reason, I feel like I will argue with Sir Jess. A lot from now on, but it will be okay, right? Returning to her office. Jess sat on the familiar chair, biting her pen tightly. Her face darkened, eyes drowsy, as if lacking sleep for 3 days. Do you think I'm a tutor or what? How annoying. I've already been busy with research. Why always this? I haven't completely finished analyzing this drug because of you, Riola. Ha ha ha. Standing next to him unnoticed, she spoke up, startling him. Isn't she quite cute? His face turned pale. What? Maybe she's bored if we know she's working so hard. I could have given her a job long ago, he continued calmly. Hogan glanced sideways. He looked at Jayla, who was focused on reading the papers in front of her, not glancing away. He took one that made him speak up, calling Riola. She was startled and looked up. Oh, Your Majesty, you have arrived. He placed his hand close to Riola's hand. If you need, I can be your assistant, she repeated. Assistant? He leaned closer. But now you are already an envoy. Having more people working isn't a bad idea. You can learn more from them. I will find someone kinder and smarter than Jess. Riola immediately agreed. All right then, he gently tilted his head. I'm glad to see you agree. His next question made her laugh. Why were you so easygoing earlier? I was very worried. A wave of anxious thoughts arose as Riola thought about what she had secretly overheard. So this is part of His Majesty's plan? What? I'm talking about His Majesty's grand death plan. Your Majesty then thought of Jess's helpless head holding. It's amazing that he's still alive. According to my prediction, His Majesty shouldn't have lived this long last year. It's no surprise that he didn't wake up the next day. But then she had already bowed her head, taking his advice. She must continue to pretend not to know and appear strong. She understood and comforted herself that it would be okay. She was worried it would be okay, for the happiness and comfort of His Majesty. That was all she needed at this moment. She didn't know when their hands had touched. Perhaps Hairhan had read all those thoughts. Riola looked up and smiled gently. If my wish comes true, we will continue to live peaceful days. Meanwhile, Greta was completely opposite, utterly devastated. Ha! What? Her father tried to comfort Greta to calm down. She looked at the notice, gritting her teeth. Why did he? She bit her lip tightly, grinding her teeth. Choosing Riola as the envoy for our kingdom? Greta shouted. Father, he has no self-respect. How? Her father tried to comfort Greta. Calm down. She angrily asked, how can I be calm? This notice clearly proves that they only see us as puppets. Her father reminded her to control her anger. What's wrong with that letter? Wrong? First, Greta completely lost her temper, frowning. What's wrong? There wasn't a single word showing respect between the two countries. Clearly, that was an order meant to humiliate us. She helplessly hit her forehead, and Riola became the ambassador for the kingdom again. Ambassador? Why doesn't she know her place? Why an ambassador? Her father explained endlessly. His Majesty promised to expand our diplomatic relations and also build a diplomatic room for us. Isn't that right? Don't you know how much benefit this brings us? No! She angrily clenched the notice in her hand. Greta angrily turned away, but he tried to chase after her. Her eyes were cold and full of murderous intent. She walked arrogantly, her back also showing it. The door creaked open. Greta entered Fabian's room and called out, Fabian. He had dark eye circles, darker than a panda's. Slowly standing up, Princess Greta saw his appearance and thought to herself that she had called the best doctor in the kingdom. Instead of getting better, he was getting worse every day. She quickly rushed to support Fabian. Worried voice, Fabian kept coughing. He held his eyes and sobbed. Riola, this must be a punishment for me. For betraying Riola, what should I do? Fabian bowed his head, unable to hold back tears, his voice trembling. Princess, I really miss Riola. She was furious, glaring. He pretended to be happy in front of her. Greta clenched the notice tightly, thinking, but he still remembers Riola. She raised the notice in front of Fabian. In a sarcastic tone, did you see? We received a letter from the Emperor of Elchtruva Kingdom recently. Riola is still doing everything well. Instead, she's doing it very well. He really intends to appoint her as our ambassador. Hearing that, he immediately stopped and looked up. The Emperor really did that for Riola? Why? Greta stood up and replied. Fabian continued to hang his head, voice trembling. Riola, why? Greta's eyes briefly showed sadness. He acted like that every time Riola was mentioned. She clenched her fists, gritting her teeth. He's surprising, huh? We all thought she was simply beside the Emperor like a lover. Unexpectedly, she was officially appointed. Huh? Fabian, you should give up, she said, then covered her face helplessly. Riola is living very well in the palace, so how long will you keep suffering like this? How much longer? That face covering was just pretending. She wanted to see Fabian's attitude. Are you still going to make me suffer more? But he kept his head down, not raising it. I'm sorry, Princess Greta. She bit her lip, hands trembling, then suddenly grabbed Fabian's shirt. She pulled him close without hesitation and said, "Then kiss me." Without waiting for Fabian's agreement, she pulled him strongly. Their lips met. Greta bit his lip hard like a punishment. They shared a passionate kiss, ending it. She wiped Fabian's pale lips gently. He also raised his hand to wipe his lips. She stroked his hair seductively. "Do you want me to make your wish come true before you die?" Then she placed her hand on his shoulder. "I will help you meet Riola." He looked up, excusing himself. "Princess." Fabian's eyes sparkled as he looked straight at her. She thought again. He only looked straight into my eyes unless I mentioned Riola's name, even if he can't come back. Why? But Greta's eyes became probing. Her father stood still when the letters were thrown in front of him. He called out to Greta. She turned away bluntly, ignoring the old man standing there, then gave an order. "Can you appoint Riola as our ambassador and issue an official announcement?" "Do whatever you want, father." He looked at the letters thrown on the ground. Greta continued speaking. "But when the sender leaves, please send these letters from me as well." He bent down to pick them up. "What is this?" The letter read, "Greetings to the Emperor. This is Princess Greta Feodona, Princess of the Riola Kingdom. I will be getting married soon, so I respectfully ask for the Emperor's approval and blessings. Because of this marriage, my fiancé and I plan to visit the royal court of Elschüvark." Scene shifts to a majestic room. A senior official cautiously said, Your Majesty, why is that person not here?" Han's gaze was as cold as ice. Seeing his eyes, the official was terrified and quickly bowed his head. "My fault, I misspoke. We cannot casually recruit someone as Riola's assistant." "Of course not. Haha," he threatened. "Are you speaking sarcastically?" The official was trembling with fear. "Never ever, haha." All the high-ranking officials simultaneously frowned and thought to themselves, WHO cares about the assistant to the ambassador of the Riola Kingdom. That diplomatic relationship is not important, whether outside or inside. Why is he so picky about finding someone for her? Hogan started the selection process like that. The second son of Duke Mantel, his educational level is still not enough to become Riola's teacher. As for Cosbarin, who is a relative of the Minister of Justice, why is he so ambitious, meaning he will bother Riola, so we should carefully select anyone coming from a family with great influence. The image of a handsome blonde man appeared, so this man would be suitable for him. Well-educated, but he has no ambition. Everyone was as happy as at a festival, standing up and shouting, "Oh, have we found someone?" S.O. Hohan suddenly became silent. He continued, "He looks very handsome." "Isn't he?" "Handsome, but sadly." The high-ranking officials scratched their heads and apologized. "But why, Your Majesty?" He replied calmly, "No means no. Find someone else." They turned pale. "What does he want from us?" Some couldn't stand it and begged to sleep. Only the long-haired man was still very diligent. He stood up and spoke. "So this man then, why?" And on the table was the trend Ylvis. He said he graduated top of his class from the Royal Academy last year. Hohan stared at that name. "Ah, I remember. Although rated the smartest of the year, he still refused an official position in the palace. He came from a common family, yet refused to be summoned to the royal palace." Hohan still looked intently at his portrait. "No," the long-haired man explained. "This resume was written by the Academy, and apparently he is quite boring. He is hard to understand." Boring. The long-haired official continued explaining his personality. "If we talk about his appearance, hearing appearances, haha, seriously." Immediately he crossed his arms and thought, "He is talented and ethical, but he has no ambition. His personality and appearance are dull, meaning he will keep a distance from Riola." Then he smiled and concluded clearly, "All right, it's him." The image of Il appeared with a mature demeanor and handsome looks. A Hohan voice echoed in the meeting room. "But are you sure he will come? Just give him anything he wants, if he still refuses." "I will meet him personally." The three guards obediently replied, "Yes, Your Majesty." But actually they were secretly happy. We have been freed, not letting them succeed." Hohan immediately changed the subject to the next schedule, making everyone freeze. A knock interrupted, making him pay attention. "I told you not to let anyone interrupt us, because this is an important meeting." Azon stepped in to announce, "Ah, it's Miss Riola. Should I tell her to come in?" The whole room fell silent. Everyone anxiously waited for the answer. Hohan heard his wife and immediately stopped working. "We will continue the meeting later." All three were happy inside. Thank the goddess of freedom. One even gave a thumbs up to Riola. "You are the best. Thank heaven." She was embarrassed watching them. "What happened? Why are they all looking at me like that? Quickly rescue me." "No, nothing. By the way, we have found the perfect candidate to be your assistant." He happily informed her, "And the renovation of your office will be completed today. By the way, I think it would be good for you to know the working areas in the palace and royal government directly before taking your position." She was happy, but did not forget to remind, "Your Majesty, please slow down." His hand gently played with her fiery red hair, saying, "Of course I will slow down. Yes, I will tell them to prepare. Then we can go together." Riola was excited. "Yes, over here in Jess's private space." He shook the bottle while mumbling about chemical reactions. Suddenly he stopped, realizing something. "What? No way. This is used to make fake medicine? But if it's true, it's impossible. Too absurd." At this moment in the Emperor's room, Eisen was standing waiting for his master to prepare in front of the mirror. A voice made Hohan pay attention. "Your Majesty, it's someone familiar." He lowered his voice. "Ah, yes. Where did he come from? Hohan asked. Where are you preparing to go? You are getting ready to go out? But Aizen quickly whispered the answer. He went out to inspect the city, or more accurately, he went out for a date with Miss Riola. Jess was stunned upon hearing this. He looked at the Emperor's cheerful expression and couldn't help but ponder. That's exactly what I was thinking, Your Majesty. He looks very happy and seems to have been more cheerful lately. But the Empire's situation is still chaotic. Ren Jess stepped forward to inquire about his health. Your Majesty, how are you feeling? He adjusted his sleeve and replied, I have never felt better than now. Jess glanced around, probing, Are you feeling any pain anywhere? Han bluntly asked. He kept rambling, annoying Jess. You took your medicine this morning, right? Have you experienced any headaches or hallucinations recently? Oh, haha. I have been checking on his condition like this all my life, so why are you looking at me like that? Anyway, I'm glad you still feel well. I feel very confident letting you go on dates outside the palace. Have a good time. But make sure you don't follow any handsome men, no matter if they offer you candy. Do you understand? Han bluntly ordered silence. Jess obediently said, Yes, Your Majesty. Taking advantage of the moment when His Majesty was fixing himself, Jess leaned in to whisper to Aizen, I discovered something that can be made into fake medicine. You won't believe it. What is it? Is it really dangerous? He whispered back. It's still a bit unfamiliar. I feel awkward talking here. I'll send the report to him after he returns tonight, so please take good care of His Majesty. Aizen nodded firmly. All right, rest assured. Outside the compound at this moment was a beautiful woman, Riola, shining in the early morning garden. She noticed someone approaching and glanced lightly in that direction. Han, handsome in a suit, walked over, looking at her affectionately. You look beautiful. Her cheeks flushed like a girl newly in love. She sighed, truly unexpected. He quickly explained. AI kept complaining that I had to say that line before starting the date. Meanwhile, Aizen was flailing his arms in the distance. He took her hand, praising her repeatedly. But you really look very beautiful. Then gently placed a kiss there. Riola looked at him in surprise. Beautiful. I've heard those words 1,000 times from others, but it feels so different hearing them from Your Majesty's mouth. That gentle smile from that day, that soft voice, and the radiant summer gaze, illuminating the splendid scenery. Everything was perfect. Han spoke up demanding, So, shouldn't you say back to me that I look very handsome or something else? Or what? She stammered. You look, just like always. He pouted and replied. How would I know? You would obey anyway. She smiled happily, always looking forward to a future with him. I hope we will always be like this. I hope you today and tomorrow will always wave like yesterday. I pray I can be by your side today, as you were by mine yesterday, just like always. Scene change. Both now went down to the street. Riola kept exclaiming, I had no idea Bahaboden had such a bustling place. Han agreed. She looked at him and guessed that the other person must also be very fond, not just the Emperor. Also feeling excited to be in such a busy city. Suddenly at a store, a staff member's voice rang out. 3 people lying on one bed? Han crossed his arms, his tone deep. I don't think you need it, because we don't know when you might faint any time, so we will always be prepared. Riola blushed fiercely, but still, I can't give you a bed. The only thing I can accept is something I can hold in my hand. He took the opportunity to bite it off. Fair enough, then I'll buy all the jewelry. She looked at the pile helplessly. No need to buy that much. Just 1 piece, please. That way, I'll cherish it even more. But you should pick one that you think will suit me. Hearing that, he pondered for a moment and made a difficult request. Everything looks beautiful when you wear it. Riola smiled happily when praised. Han glanced at her once. His hand gently clipped a pretty hairpin on her hair, as if it belonged to its rightful owner. Sparkling on her hair, she looked incredibly beautiful now. How could he bear such beauty? Wow, so beautiful. Riola fondled the hairpin. That hairpin is really beautiful, very pretty. Hohan giggled, pointing firmly at her. I'm not talking about the hairpin, but anyway, make sure you keep your promise. You should cherish it for the rest of your life. Her hand suddenly stopped, recalling someone's words. She must not let His Majesty see her collapse. She nodded, yes, we are very happy right now. Riola smiled and replied yes, feeling somewhat relieved. Meanwhile, the Emperor also looked healthier. There's nothing to be pessimistic about right now. At another store, desperately choosing a dress for his woman. This one looks very beautiful on you. Riola blushed, embarrassed. The only thing missing here is that he knelt down to beg. She reluctantly pointed at one dress. Okay, you can buy me this dress. Inside the fitting room, she struggled to button her shirt, thinking she couldn't do it herself behind her back. It's best to ask the store staff for help. She sighed, and as she stepped out, she was stunned, her face frozen. She called out, Your Majesty, over here! He was having trouble breathing, his hand on his neck, trying to loosen his collar to catch every breath. She rushed to him, shouting loudly, Your Majesty! He collapsed into her arms. Riola's voice was urgent. Your Majesty, what's wrong? Are you okay? Hohan was struggling to breathe, his hand still on his neck as if something was squeezing it. She stepped out of the fitting room, horrified. He rushed to her, shouting, Your Majesty! Her hands trembled as she clasped his hands, losing control. Your Majesty, please don't die. Please, please. I'm very scared, Your Majesty. Hohan had regained consciousness, sitting up and calling her name. Riola's voice trembled. What's wrong with me? I don't want you to die, Your Majesty. I'm afraid you'll suddenly disappear. What should I do for you? What can I do for you? Hohan hugged her tightly, comforting her. Riola, calm down. I'm still fine. Her arms wrapped fully around his neck. It made him think continuously. She had never hugged him so tightly before. What had she endured all this time? What had she faced alone? He gently comforted her while asking, have you ever been so scared that one day I might suddenly be gone? Riola released him and nodded. He took a breath, his face showing joy. Jess must have scared you a lot. Is that why? You silently endured it? Because one day you might lose me? He spoke while putting on a coat for the person in front of him. Hesitating, Hohan lifted her chin and said, listen, I want to hear that again. She affirmed, yes, I'm afraid. Hearing the answer he wanted, he smiled. Riola continued, I don't want to lose you. I want to always be by your side. I want to keep hearing you call my name. I don't dare think about losing you. I hope you'll stay by my side. I like you, Your Majesty. She looked at him with sparkling eyes. After confessing, she couldn't hold back tears that welled up in her eyes. Jess had warned her not to fall for the Emperor. Surely he was talking about this scene. She lowered her head. I'm sorry, I don't know what I've been saying. Hohan quickly replied, no, I should be the one apologizing to you. I'm sorry for making you sad. Yes, I can't stop thinking when I see you cry. You still look beautiful like this. His words stunned her. Just as she opened her mouth to say, excuse me, her lips were taken by him. She still couldn't believe her eyes. Then both gradually sank into the sweetness of love through a passionate kiss. They clung to each other, never wanting to part. Scene change. Now they had returned to the palace. Riola seemed to really like this trip and said, let's come here again next time. Hohan helped her down and agreed. All right, we'll come whenever you want. Don't we need to go? But I'm afraid you'll cry again if I disappear. Hearing that, she pouted like a bunny, annoyed. Your Majesty, that's your fault. Why do you have to tie your tie so tightly? He still chuckled heartily. Yes, it's all my fault. Riola was momentarily flustered. No, I mean Hohan. She smiled gently, holding out her hand. He took a lock of her red hair, not forgetting to tell her, I'll be back soon, so I won't make you worry anymore. Wait for me. He kissed the lock of hair gently. Riola had now entered the palace. A male servant spoke. There are some things you need to check, Miss Riola. She took the letter and was momentarily shocked. What? The male servant quickly responded, you can open and read it. Checking diplomatic letters is always the foreign minister's duty. I am Sao Nam, quickly handed over. You can open and read it. Checking diplomatic letters is always the task of the Minister of Foreign Affairs. However, you have been appointed as the ambassador of Riola, so from now on you will take on the responsibility of handling all diplomatic affairs with the Kingdom of Riola. She read while pondering, oh, right, I am currently the ambassador of the Kingdom of Riola. She glanced around the room once, then lowered her gaze and sighed. It seems I cannot stay away from Riola. There was a time I was chased by them. A supplementary letter. Riola glanced at the stack of letters below, which had that person's name written on it. Groom Fabian. Riola was puzzled. I guess they are preparing for the wedding. Because it is true that Fabian no longer needs to run away, he still hasn't changed. Her eyes slightly closed. Her hand caressed the letter. He is still a good person. Then she picked up a nearby pen. Now the only sound in the room was the scratching of the pen dancing across the paper. Meanwhile, Eisen asked in panic, what? It's not poison, just ordinary water? Jess quickly replied, yes. The original medicine that His Majesty takes is an inhibitor. He needs it every day. You were so surprised that you had to close your mouth. But in front of her Han, Jess continued to explain, but if it really is just ordinary water, then he should have died less than a day after not taking his real medicine. I think you should reconsider carefully, Your Majesty. He finally spoke. I just finished the monthly meeting, so I have no urgent reason to hold a meeting. Hearing that, Jess turned to ask Eisen about the conference that Duke Tarian will attend in the next 3 days. So what? You quickly replied. It might be postponed as he wishes. Good. Please rearrange his schedule and adjust his diet back to the previous one. We also need to change the bedroom curtains to black ones. We will prepare them immediately. Today, Hohan couldn't understand if his body had become stubborn. His mind was full of Riola's words that day. I don't want to lose you, Your Majesty. He frowned seriously. Because I don't want to die anymore. At that moment, he was walking down the hall. Suddenly, a soldier called him back. Your Majesty, you have a guest waiting inside. He was slightly surprised. Guest? He wondered who it could be, but only those allowed to be in the reception without his permission were Eisen and Jess. If not them, maybe Riola was already waiting inside. Your Majesty looked at that girl. His heart kept moving. Maybe it was her warm gaze that made him confident, so he didn't want to die anymore. Hogan happily rushed to her. Riola's eyes met his, making him mesmerized. She looked at him as if he was strong and the most reliable man in the world. Her gaze was always full of trust and warmth. Riola held a report in her hand. I came here for official business to present the report. He sat beside her, surprised. Report? Her face darkened. She sulkily replied. I received feedback from the Riola Kingdom, along with the letter about the appointment decision that you forced them to send. Hohan just glanced away. So you already know everything? Riola seemed seriously sulky. Even so, I need to send a response to them. I have to report to the Minister of Foreign Affairs first, but I want to poison it to make sure I won't write it wrong. he teased her. Don't forget, I am the Emperor. She turned her face away sulkily. It's really bad. Only you are the one I can ask for help. You have a visit for a few hours, and Jess will be very angry if he sees you. Hearing that, he took the report and read it. Let me see. Hohan quickly handled it with one hand, tightly gripping the paper. That princess dared to come here, along with her fiancé? Riola calmly replied. Yes. Hohan clenched his teeth, his face clearly angry. Should I close the border, or should I send a troop there? She waved her hand. No, Your Majesty, you don't need to do that. I'm fine, Your Majesty, but he still worried endlessly. You don't need to pretend to be okay in front of me. She raised the paper in front of her, showing no fear. But I really mean it. It's strange, but I completely feel fine. See? I even wrote a response letter already. Yes, he clearly stated the reason they came. The princess came here just to torment you. That was also what she realized. I know, Hohan asked sharply. Then why do you smile so confidently? She confidently answered. Even though I know, I don't feel tormented at all. I think I won't feel hurt when I meet the princess and Fabian again. Instead, now my mind is full of thoughts about someone else. At that moment, he seized the opportunity and thought about who she was looking at with wide eyes. Hohan blushed. I already knew the answer. However, she did not hesitate because His Majesty could not stop loving this adorable girl. Your words always make my heart race. Just one teasing word from you is enough to make me flutter like this. As for Riola, with her mischievous smile, Your Majesty always ties your ties so tightly, which worries me a lot, that you might suffocate when alone. That's why I can't stop thinking about you. It's all because I care for you, nothing else. He couldn't hold back anymore, placing his hand gently on the table. She was suddenly pressed close by him, and unexpectedly, Hohan, like a mad lover, lunged forward to press her into a deep kiss. Riola was flustered. Your Majesty, you spoil me. You can faint if you want. This room has many sofas anyway. Saying that, he placed his hand on her waist. She could only whisper softly, Your Majesty, as they once again melted into a passionate kiss. Just as things were reaching a climax, there was a knock on the door. She blushed deeply. Your Majesty, it seems someone is outside. He was annoyed. Don't mind what he's doing. The knocking grew louder. Eisen burst in, shouting loudly, Your Majesty, I knew this would happen. He switched from a fierce beast to a kitten, looking at her and saying, Did I mention you, Riola? You know, right, Riola? She sprayed perfume. Huh? You're just like the Emperor's grandfather. Your Majesty, do you intend to behave like this? Do you know you should follow the rules before your checkup? You shouldn't overexert yourself. You must not drink or smoke. And most importantly, you must abstain from everything. It's been less than an hour since you left, yet you've already lost control. I was informed that Riola is in your room, so I came to prevent you from acting recklessly again. Knowing we are worried, I want to remind you once more, it's not that I have ill feelings toward you, Riola. She was embarrassed by the torrent of words, blushing deeply. I'd rather be scolded than... Scene change. Now only she and Eisen remained. She spoke up. Oh, I understand now about that fake medicine. That means there won't be any serious health issues for Your Majesty, he quickly replied. Yes, we are conducting tests to confirm. We have only postponed work because Your Majesty is very busy since ascending the throne. Your Majesty is developing something exclusively for you. Clearly, it's a test to assess the internal damage in your body. He continued, I sincerely apologize, but it's best you don't enter Your Majesty's bedroom for a week. Even a small change in his mind can affect the test results. Riola looked at the paper and couldn't help but ask, are these the rules he must follow? Eisen said a few words that made her nod. I'm not suggesting what Your Majesty will do with you, Riola, but he's not willing when confined. Riola was very understanding. By the way, may I ask why he left the test? There are many rules he must follow. She gripped the paper tightly. He must lie still like a corpse. Until now, he has to do that alone. She worried, will Your Majesty be okay? Eisen immediately reassured her. Yes, we are conducting it to confirm what we discovered. Curious, she spoke up. I don't understand much about it, but could it be that Your Majesty's illness is truly cured? Hearing that, she looked at him expectantly. Eisen's face froze. Telling the truth won't help her, he answered vaguely. We have to see the results first. Anyway, I'd appreciate your cooperation. His mind was in turmoil. Unfortunately, Your Majesty's dangerous illness isn't something easily cured. Meanwhile, in Hohan's bedroom, he sighed. A week is quite long. Would it be okay if I just saw her face? I promise I won't do anything else. So Eisen sat cross-legged reading the newspaper, replying to him like a king. I can't trust you. Of course, I've seen you behave like this before. He threatened sharply. A soldier who doesn't trust the Emperor should lay down his sword. Eisen's face froze. Telling her the truth wouldn't help either. He roughly answered, we have to wait for the results to know. Even so, SAO, I would be very grateful if you cooperate. His mind was in chaos, unfortunately. His Majesty's critical illness is not something easily cured. At this moment, in Hohan's bedroom, he sighed. A week is quite long. Would it be okay if we only saw her face? I promise I won't do anything else. So Eisen sat cross-legged reading the newspaper, replying to him like a king, I just can't trust you. Of course, I have seen you behave like that in the past. He threatened him sternly. A soldier who doesn't trust the Emperor's words should lay down his sword. Do you care? He smirked. Then, once this test is over, I plan to retire and then move to live in a remote village. 3 days have passed. He has been lying in bed all day. Only food and medicine are allowed to be given to him. He is not allowed to leave the bed even a single step, or even with permission. Looking outside, Hohan thought silently. Luckily, the work in the government, recently not too busy, but he grumbled to Aizen. Do you know about the royal family affair? Riola is planning to visit. Aren't you going to let Riola prepare everything by herself? We still haven't found staff for the embassy. You know he will definitely ask. Don't worry about that. Hohan sat up in bed. Why is Azon lying back in the chair yawning? Haven't I told you yet? Riola's new assistant arrived yesterday. At the conference room, Riola hurriedly ran over. The door to the room was slightly open. She opened it and stepped in. I'm here. I'm late. Why was someone sitting there, looking at his watch? He coldly replied to her, No, you arrived 30 minutes early. This is Isle Weiss, the person the Lord called. She happily walked over to him. That handsome face only glanced at her once, then turned away abruptly with a harsh tone. But your arrival was significantly earlier than planned, which might make the client uncomfortable. And considering the diplomatic oversight, you shouldn't run around here. This is the office and residence of government officials. An ambassador should always maintain proper etiquette. She followed, only able to say, Yes, I understand. Is there anything else I should remember? Yes, Isle thoughtfully told her. I've made a list. The tasks you need to complete today. Please read it. She held the paper, turning it this way and that, amazed. Did you prepare all of this beforehand? He quickly got to the point. After you review it, we will teach you the protocols to follow at the party. The ceremony when Princess Riola arrives, you will have to preside over at least one reception party for her. Riola nodded. I understand. I will be very busy. 3 days ago, this became the daily task list. I have to get to my office early and finish work before learning the necessary lessons from Lord Isle. I seem unable to focus on anything else, so I understand Lord Isle is trying to help me. Isle's eyes closed tightly, looking very tired. Then he looked at the group of maids drooling and annoyed, asking her, Are those maids working in the Lakeside Palace area or are they embassy staff? She smiled and replied, Both. She recalled old memories. He reminded her of himself when she first came to the palace, so I feel very close to him. Lord Isle always coldly rejected her very harshly. This bothered me because they always wandered around here bringing all kinds of drinks and snacks, which I would not eat. Riola laughed. They're here because of Lord Isle's handsomeness. This made her keep thinking. His tone was cold and cruel, but his beauty made up for it. That's how everyone described the new assistant's beauty. On another day in the palace grounds, Riola asked, Is that really what I think? You've never been anywhere except the Lakeside Palace area, right? You weren't even allowed to attend the inauguration ceremony. I know the way to the library if you go this way. You can pass through the garden in front of the main building, she said, pointing in another direction. He didn't care at all, but why bother? We should choose the fastest route. Riola guessed the answer too. Well, I guess so. Both fell silent, only her face looked gloomy. Yes, Isle immediately spoke. You like to look at the garden? Why? She whispered. Yes, because it's very beautiful. He lowered his voice to please her. I think we should go through the garden. She only waited for that and happily exclaimed, All right, you're so kind. Even though last time passing by she was saddened by his harsh refusal. Poor her. She seemed very disappointed. She really wanted to pass through that garden to meet the Emperor. He was perceptive. A glance was enough to see his intention. His Majesty must be very busy. Riola was startled and turned around, apologizing. Isle's cold and icy voice rose. Do you know why? She waved her hand and mouthed. No, how would I know? I only heard he's resting, he said, then turned and walked away but suddenly stumbled. She fell to the ground in an instant. If not for Isle's arms, Riola was shocked, speechless. She can now hear every breath he takes. Is she all right? The two exchanged a meaningful glance. He leaned in gently to remind her to be careful. Ambassador Riola hurriedly escaped without forgetting to thank Eel. Thank you, Lord Isle. He stood aside calmly. Please be careful. She was flustered, thinking he scared her. Meanwhile, Han was still locked in his private room, feeling more uncomfortable than ever. This was really annoying, but 4 days had passed, which wasn't too long. But why do I feel so worried? He raised his hand to his forehead, full of frustration. On one side was Aizen, who was rapidly talking about Riola and the strange assistant. Please don't worry too much. She seems to be getting used to palace life by the lake. Moreover, she was excelling at her ambassador duties, which even surprised AI. By the way, she and the new assistant worked extremely well together and she got along with the maids. Hearing this, he immediately felt annoyed, selfish like a child. What do you mean working well together? Aizen didn't let up, continuing. According to the foreign minister, he feels reassured when entrusting all preparations for Princess Riola's visit to her. He shook his head, showing dissatisfaction. What work did you give her? Of course, pride won't allow it. He blurted out, too proud to ask. It seemed Aizen had already left. Hohan got off the bed and walked to the window. The sun had set, so maybe he could see outside a little. I need to calm down first. He pulled back the curtain and looked down. The sight before him made his face turn serious. Riola and the assistant were happily talking below. He quickly recognized that person was Ylvis. What? He was really handsome. He stretched out to watch them gradually disappear. Their behavior was exactly like the shameless name. Riola was smiling. Why with that man? They quickly became close. So fast? Just then, his eyes caught something he shouldn't see, Isle catching Riola's waist as she stumbled and almost fell. Their eyes met, making him unable to bear it. Her hand clenched his fists until they trembled. His face darkened. He looked like he was about to devour them. What was he doing over there? Riola and Eel had arrived at the palace's vast library. She watched him flip through books and asked, Han, is there a book you need to find? Cheerfully, she said, I heard you're from the Royal Academy. Lord Eel, do you have a library as big as this there? He hesitated for a few seconds. Yes, it's very large. Eel turned his face away, avoiding her gaze, while inside a storm raged. Maybe so, but at the academy, every pointed word was directed at me. How could he forget that? How could someone from such a family get into the Royal Academy? He was just a lowly commoner. He was the shame of the academy. How dare he come here? It was really hard to avoid shame and discrimination in a shared space, and it ruined the family's reputation. As a result, I even lost the rightful privilege to use the library. I didn't deserve to be treated so kindly. I loved books so much, but I couldn't even afford to buy a single book. Isle was stunned. Suddenly, Riola's voice rang out, pulling him back to reality. When I was young, the most precious thing to me was a book about Henry and Anne. He hesitated. Henry and Anne? Riola smiled brightly and replied, yes, it's a children's book. Isle's heart fluttered briefly. When she recalled those dear memories, she still wore that delighted expression and told him with a radiant smile. Henry became strong whenever he was beside Anne. He was empowered and could breathe fire. Isn't that wonderful? Isle's heart fluttered for real now. She looked so innocent with that little children's book. It was her most precious possession. She asked Isle, have you heard the story about me when I was still in the Riola kingdom? He nodded, thinking to himself, of course, everyone had told stories about her. Riola didn't hesitate to tell him about herself. Our mercenary team wasn't wealthy. We barely had 3 meals a day. Riola did not hesitate to tell him about herself. Our mercenary team is not well off. We only have just enough for 3 meals a day. So naturally, we don't have money to buy books. When I happened to find that book, I read it so much it got damaged. I was very gentle with it, but because I kept reading it over and over again, eventually it got ruined. I was very sad when it happened, but now I have the largest library in the world. It's wonderful, and I feel happy about that. She blushed and hurriedly explained, ah, but I am sure you have been to a very large library. Sir Isle, to me this is like a precious treasure. Isle just stared at her. I feel the same way. I'm in a similar situation. He then turned around abruptly. Without saying another word, Ahel stepped forward, took a book, and said, here it is. Your most precious item, Ambassador. She was stunned for a moment. Excuse me, a book neatly placed on her stack of books. Riola was excited. This book is about a healthy boy named Henry, who can fly and breathe fire. Isle stood beside her explaining the origin. The version you read is the children's edition of this book. This is the original story. To be precise, this is the story about the god who created and shaped the world. She stood there amazed. Wow, just a still figure. But the aura radiating was bright. Isle looked at her dumbfounded. She smiled and looked at him, liking this place even more. I think this is truly a precious place, AI. Suddenly, a knock on the door sounded, followed by a familiar voice asking, Riola hasn't arrived yet. Why not AI? None other than Jess, he asked suspiciously. Not yet, but she will come soon. May I ask who you are? He gestured, introducing himself. I am His Majesty's doctor, Jess, and you are Sir Eel's secretary. So you agreed to be Riola's secretary, instead of ignoring the offer to work in the laboratory. Isle's eyes sharpened, his tone cautious. I'm sorry, I don't like playing with numbers. Their eyes met. Jess wasn't any less. So you're not interested in art, huh? It's a pity you don't understand the beauty of science. Riola then stepped in, breaking the heated atmosphere. Sir Isle, good morning, right? She looked at Jess with curiosity. What brought you here, Sir Jess? Isle beside him bowed, then replied seriously. He came here to see you. Ambassador, I will leave you to your private space first. Yes, he said to her, but still glared at him. He blushed. Nothing urgent. I came to confirm about His Majesty. She nodded. Okay, he asked her. So when will you go to that kingdom? That's what happened to him, right, Riola? She answered honestly, yes. He replied, all right, I understand. I will keep that in mind during his examination. Taking the book on the table, he teased her. By the way, that book is what? Why are you reading it? Theology research about Andrew and Antu. Her face pouted, realizing his teasing. This is a precious book to me. Jess was a bit surprised. Huh, such an ordinary book, she quickly interrupted. What? Sir, why do you say it's an ordinary book? If your business is done, I'll leave. She stood up and left. Leaving him sitting there frozen like a statue, he was stunned. Huh, what was that just now? It's already dusk. Inside the palace, the steady sound of breathing. Eisen said, I think I'll go to bed early tonight. You standing beside just obeyed. All right, I will give you some sleeping pills to reduce your stress. He took the sleeping pill and put it right into his mouth. Seeing that, Eisen felt relieved and turned away. Good night, Your Majesty, but he didn't actually swallow it. He took his hand away from his mouth. But the pill was still intact on the table. His hand did that to fool you. Reduce stress? Definitely. That's very important. He quickly moved to open the door, thinking to himself, sorry, Isan. Today, Hohan hurriedly glanced at the room once, then pushed the door open and stepped out without hesitation. I will come back before you notice I disappear. He entered a passage no one knew about. This secret path is only known by emperors and empresses, but I accidentally discovered it when I was young. That's why the Lakeside Palace was chosen as the Empress's residence. That's also why I kept insisting on giving the Lakeside Palace to Riola. It was already bad enough being forced to be apart from Riola. But now she's working all day with a lovely assistant, and soon her ex-lover will also come to her, so I have no choice but to use this method. Even though my exam results can only be accurate, if my mind is truly at peace, I need to see her face, even if just for a moment in Riola's room. It seems like she has fallen ill, but she still insisted on answering, I really am fine. I'm still very healthy. Until this morning. I just thought my face was red because it was a bit hot today. But the guy next to me was extremely anxious. 37.7 degrees is also a mild fever. Realizing their intention, she hurriedly spoke up. Don't call a doctor, especially Mr. Jess. He would nag me to death. He understood and softly said, all right, I won't call him. After hearing that, she immediately collapsed onto the bed. Good thing you didn't call him. Isle, still holding the thermometer in hand, continued to ask Han, do you have any other symptoms? Are you like a zombie now? Is your voice hoarse? I'm just a little dizzy and feel cold, but that's all. AI. Based on what happened in the Riola kingdom, the terrible things the princess and her fiancé caused, and the misfortunes Coriola had to endure, she always appeared strong, but clearly there were times she felt weak and sad. So to keep her from thinking too much, I assigned her many tasks and urged her to do them. That way, she wouldn't feel sad anymore. Then Ai Nyai spoke up. Sorry, miss, that's my fault. I guess I made you work too much. The Riola ambassador quickly explained. Huh? But it's my fault for neglecting my health. Ai Hio stubbornly took the blame. No, this is my fault. Usually, if a problem happens, it's my fault. She looked at him in shock, unable to say anything. He lowered his head, looking very remorseful. This made her keep thinking. He looked so sad, just like she did before. She reached out and gently touched his head. How can you say that? Isle was stunned when a girl touched him. Riola expressed her gratitude to him. I don't know about other things, but this definitely isn't your fault. I'm glad you are a strict teacher, Mr. Eel. Tonight I will rest and recover, so please come teach me again tomorrow. Eel officially fell in love. His cheeks flushed red. I feel warmth. She wasn't sure if it was because it was a hot summer night, or because those red eyes were so warm. His lips moved. I understand. He raised his hand to touch her forehead. He instructed, Ahem, I will leave some fever medicine and vitamins here. I will tell the maid to remind you to take them. Her fever wasn't too high, so before she could finish speaking, Han stepped forward with a voice that seemed to come from the 18th floor of hell. Take your hands off her, Riola stammered when she saw him. Mr. Isle quickly withdrew his hand. He continued to approach, his voice and hands heavy. Han took slow, heavy steps toward the two of them, his face stern as he ordered, I told you to take your hands off her. Riola saw that sour face and was endlessly frightened. Your Majesty. Isle looked at the person in front of him and, according to her, that was the Emperor. How could he appear so suddenly like that? The Emperor knew teleportation? I'll introduce myself. My name is I.L. Weiss. He respectfully bowed. He knelt on one knee, following proper protocol, greeting His Majesty. Han had no intention of letting go. He threatened. Cutting off your hand would be too troublesome. You still need to work, right? But now maybe not anymore. I just need to dismiss that person. She stood trembling to one side. The Emperor and Han continued to scold Isle. You may be her assistant, but you have gone too far. Don't you realize Riola is a woman? Before that, she was your superior. Yes, Ahel could only obediently bow and admit fault. I'm sorry, this won't happen again. Hohan ordered to throw him out. Get lost before I really do something to you. A drop of cold sweat ran down his face. Ahel shut his eyes tightly. Yes. Your Majesty, he said, then quickly stepped outside, leaving the couple immersed in a suffocating atmosphere. Riola, with her mouth as if sewn shut, couldn't say anything more. Han approached and expressed to her, I miss you so much. I couldn't stand it anymore, so I came to visit you. Riola accidentally discovered that he had cheated on her with another man. Hearing that, she panicked and explained, it's not like that. Cheating isn't like that. He turned away like a sulking kitten. Whatever. Anyway, I don't miss you. Riola hurriedly stepped forward. Your Majesty. Her voice made him worry and turn back. He rushed over to support her. Riola, what's wrong? Your body is so hot. She was overwhelmed by the attack, her whole body weak. She had caught a cold. But I also miss you, Your Majesty. I don't have any outside relationships. Please don't go. I know you have to go, but I really miss you so much. Both of us hugging tightly. He buried his face in her neck, inhaling the pleasant scent. Han. Now I can finally calm down. Sorry, please stop crying. Riola was worried when he suddenly arrived. But is it okay if we meet like this? He gently reassured her, it will be fine. She still asked softly if it would cause any problems for Your Majesty's exam. Both of them now settled on the bed. He turned to kindly tell her that not being able to see her would be a big problem, making him more annoyed. Riola sat curled up like a little rabbit, she whispered. But to be safe, we shouldn't touch each other, right? Her hand beside her teased, "So you're only saying that now? But it seems your fever hasn't gone down. Let's call Jess." She immediately reacted upon hearing that name. "No, if they find out your majesty is here. No, Aiel already gave me medicine. I'll be fine." Luckily, he also had knowledge of herbs, so hearing the name prickly pear made him annoyed and purse his lips. He sulked. "I told you not to talk about that name anymore, and now you realize you slipped up." He also took this chance to tease her. "You broke the rules, you must be punished." She was confused. "Punished how? Never. Ah, Han, let her finish." He leaned in and placed a deep kiss on her sweet lips. Riola turned away to avoid it, pushing his lips away. "Your Majesty." "No." Your Majesty didn't care. Pulled her back and kissed passionately. Riola struggled for a while, then returned his enthusiasm. "Both of us immersed in the intoxication of love. Ah, Han, I won't find excuses to refuse anymore. Even though this moment will lead to a consequence, whatever it is in the future, I can no longer hold myself back." He bent down and kissed lightly on her chest. His hand quickly lifted her skirt. She shyly told him to slow down. "Your Majesty, please slow down. I don't want to faint again." He looked at her and smiled fiercely. "I don't want that either. Tonight I'll make sure you remember every detail." That day, two bodies merged into one in Riola's bedroom. Hohan and Riola were hugging and lying on the bed. Aha. Looking at her sleeping soundly, gently stroking Riola's deep red hair, he thought, "I want to make love to her again." But she still had a slight fever. Riola's eyelashes fluttered. She asked, "By the way, how did you get here?" He gazed at her, smiling gently. This is Riola, blushing and dreamy. "This is your room, so how did you get in?" Hohan smiled. "That's a secret," she happily said. "Tell me the secret." Hohan immediately replied, "No." Riola lightly scolded. "Your Majesty is mean," he thought to himself. "She didn't just handle it casually, but also called for me. But I am the Emperor." "Yes." Riola closed her eyes tightly. "Your Majesty is Henry." Hohan was amused. "Huh, Henry?" In the quiet night, the conversation of the two echoed. "Yes, because you flew to me," he agreed. "Flew? And you breathed fire too?" Riola said. Hohan was surprised. "Fire?" He laughed helplessly and hugged her. "Riola, what are you talking about?" And Hohan also closed his eyes, falling asleep. Early morning at Riola's mansion, Aiello opened a watch to check the time, holding the watch absent-mindedly looking out the window. "Knock, knock," a gentle voice sounded. "Miss Riola." "Miss Riola, I'm Lou. How are you? May I come in?" Inside, Hohan was hugging Riola asleep beside him. He heard the maid's call and startled awake. "Ha ha ha," sat up rubbing Riola's head. Outside, maid Lou kept knocking. "Miss Riola, ha ha," turning her head embarrassed. "Maybe she's recovered from the fever. What time is it?" He gently touched her cheek and reminded Riola, "I have to go back now. I'll finish the matter and come back to you right away," holding Riola's hair. Hohan was calling her but suddenly stopped. He was shocked looking at Riola as if realizing something. Seconds later, Hohan ran out, flinging open the bedroom door with his shirt still unbuttoned. Lou outside panicked and screamed. She loudly called, "Your Majesty," and her voice gradually lowered as if talking to herself. "Why is Your Majesty in Miss Riola's bedroom?" Hohan ignored her. He hurriedly ran out and ordered Lou to go to the treatment area and call Jess here. Lou replied yes. Hohan shouted immediately. "She's worried. Yes, Your Majesty, I'm going now." He ran while worrying. "Why?" Hohan recalled Riola's sleeping face. Someone gently tapped their fingertip on the table while thinking, why did Riola Benito read that book? An image of a thick book being opened reveals research on the legend of Enrin and Antu. It talks about superhumans, like the most famous superhuman emperor who possesses the power of a god. But his lifespan decreases each time he uses that power. That is Enrin. Along with that person's thoughts are images of young, healthy men holding swords, shouting, and the most famous guardian who can heal superhumans. That guardian is Anna. Next appear many girls with red or dark hair closing their eyes and reaching out their hands. Superhumans like Enrin can only be healed by guardians. Besides that, guardians also act as stimulants to enhance the strength of superhumans. But because the number of awakened guardians is much less than the number of superhumans, the superhumans competing to monopolize a guardian is not uncommon. Such stories from the legendary world are often recorded in children's books and historical documents, but the Great War of the Global Alliance started from internal conflicts and then spread like wildfire. And when the number of guardians, those who can stop superhumans from losing control, gradually decreased, the war ended, with no winner or loser, leaving the world in ruins. According to the story, images of people going mad, slaughtering each other as if losing their minds. Today, those creatures are only mentioned as mysterious legends. People like His Majesty had no choice but to hide their true identities. Jess Wood stroked his chin thoughtfully. Riola knew that His Majesty was a superhuman, so there would be no problem if she read books on this topic. But he remembered the real problem was this man. Jess recalled the librarian's words about the legend of Enrin and Antu. That's right, Ryota's ambassador borrowed it. It was on the list of books she borrowed. She went with her father to get it. Was there a problem just now? Then he thought silently. He was with her when she borrowed this book. A file was placed down. Jess looked closely again. He took his mother's family name, Weiss, from a poor family, with two younger sisters. He couldn't find any information about his father. Jay stretched and pushed the paper away. A family like that definitely couldn't afford the Royal Academy tuition. That means he must have a sponsor, but I couldn't find any information about that either. He looked up intently and read through the paper. I will meet Dien. Suddenly the door opening startled Jess, cutting off his train of thought. He stammered, "Why? Why didn't you knock?" Lu leaned against the door, panting. "I'm sorry, I was in a hurry," she said. "Your Majesty," the person said. "He's coming quickly, Your Majesty." Jess panicked, slammed the table, and stood up. "What? Your Majesty is at Riola's mansion?" Hohan's voice rang out. Last night she was clearly still conscious. "Oh, so there are times she's not fully conscious," he recounted to Jess as he ran over. "But she was still able to talk to me. She was sweating a lot too. Too much. She had a slight fever, but it went down this morning, though she's a bit cold and restless. She took some fever medicine." "Could it be the medicine?" Jess interrupted. "What were you two doing all night?" A cold shiver ran down Jess's spine. "I was annoyed all night in the ladies' room. I'm asking you, Your Majesty. You should have been isolated in your room, right?" He stubbornly turned away. "Do you really want to know? If so, I'll answer." Jess snapped irritably. "Forget it, don't bother. Truly annoying." Then he sat down with a sigh, silently observing. More importantly, her condition was really strange. "I noticed it last time. She has no external injuries, nor internal trauma, but is extremely exhausted." Jess carefully took Riola's hand and checked her pulse. With this level of exhaustion, coughing up blood is not surprising. Hohan turned around in shock. "What? Coughing up blood? Is Riola's condition that bad? I thought she just fainted." Jess said seriously. "Her condition is too severe. Not just fainting, and it came on suddenly with no warning symptoms." Hohan was worried. "Does that mean I didn't push her too hard?" Jess silently cursed. "How much did you really push her? That insensitive guy." "Ha ha ha," he muttered. "I didn't say I was too rough, but it seems it was a bit too much for Riola." Jess paused. "Maybe that's it." He frowned suspiciously. "Your Majesty, what is happening? So that's it. Are you reading my mind? You aren't even touching me, yet you've experienced some strange symptoms again, right?" "Ha ha 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 ha! Wave it off! Jess, I'm fine. Don't worry about me." Jess shouted loudly. "Your Majesty, please stop talking nonsense. I can't take it anymore." He pressed his face close to hers. "Heron, I will check you right now." Beside Riola's bed, Lu was wiping her face. Riola was asleep, and Lu was also awkward watching the two of them argue. After a while, Lu, exhausted, sat beside Riola's bed. After being asked by all the other maids about her, Lu shed tears and tilted her head. "Get off the bed, Miss Riola. You will have to be proud of me when you wake up." Her Majesty Hohan suddenly appeared. He bent down to check on Riola, still asleep. Lu screamed in fear. "Ah! Ah! Ah!" She hugged her heart pounding hard, stammering. Her Majesty Hohan leaned forward to ask again, "Riola, how is she? Has she woken up yet?" Lu answered, "No, Miss has been sleeping all day." Looking at Riola peacefully asleep, she informed Hohan. But Jess said her fatigue level has decreased a lot compared to this morning. He also said he would continue to monitor her condition. "Understood, I got it." Lu was delighted. "You are here now too. Then I will wait outside," she said, then closed the door, leaving a quiet space for the two of them. "Ha ha ha," stroking Riola's hair. "How can you be so fragile?" He crossed his arms in front of her. "You are so weak and fragile that." "Ha ha ha." Hohan lay on the bed, hugged her, and kissed her forehead. "I don't know what to do with you," he whispered like a prayer. "Please wake up, Riola. It's all my fault. From now on, I will cherish you as if you are the most precious treasure in the world." Hohan kissed her lips again. "So please wake up and look at me." A knock on the door sounded along with a voice announcing, "Your Majesty, pardon me, but the assistant wants to see the ambassador." "What should I do?" Hohan sat up. "At this hour? Who is outside? I will tell him to leave." He buttoned his shirt, not letting him in. Eel stepped in, bowed, and said, "Ambassador, I know it's late, but—" "Ha ha ha!" Hohan interrupted with a surprised look on his face. "Yes." "Eel." Hohan raised his arm to block Eel, silently cautious. "A gift from another man? I have to check it myself." Eel handed over a book and a small bag. "It's fever medicine and some chocolates." Hohan stopped him when he saw the book just handed to him and asked, "And this book is?" In his heart, he answered himself. "Research about the Enrin legend and Antu." Eel explained under Hohan's scrutinizing gaze. "The ambassador has recently been very interested in this book, so I thought she would want to read it during her rest. Do you think this is okay?" He dropped the book he was holding. It fell with a thud to the floor. Hohan knelt to pick it up. "Oh, my fault." Eel also bent down and said, "Let me pick it up for you." While picking up the book, Hohan's and Eel's hands lightly touched. He couldn't read his thoughts and was shocked to realize it. Eel picked up the book and slowly stood up. Noticing Hohan's strange expression, Eel asked, "Is there a problem?" Hohan hugged the bag and took the book he handed over, replying, "No, nothing. You may leave now." Eel agreed. "Yes, sir." Thanks to these strange symptoms, I can even read the thoughts of those outside the room. While Jess was checking on me, I saw Eel's back leaving, Hohan recalled. Holding the book tightly, he still watched Eel and silently wondered, "Why can't I read this guy's thoughts?" Hohan said, "You're just an assistant under the embassy's command." "Riola, stop it." "Eel, Vice, an assistant's duty does not include serving the ambassador when she is sick." Eel tilted his head slightly. I didn't come here just because of my duty, he said politely. Ail's reply made Hohan unable to believe it. This guy is too dangerous. It goes beyond my simple jealousy. I have to be cautious of this guy, he quietly judged in his heart while still watching Ail. Hohan turned his head with a slightly veined face, propping his hand beside Riola's head, whispering, Riola, am I not the only one receiving your sweetness? You also share your sweetness with another man? You two promised each other and hid your thoughts from me, right? Pressing his face close to Riola's sleeping face, Hohan murmured sadly. He closed his eyes and bumped his forehead against hers. Do you have a secret from me? Open your eyes, please. I hate you so much, Hohan ordered as if begging. Late at night, outside the palace, Ail stepped down the stairs quietly, wondering if he was lying about her being sick. After I left, they probably imagined Ail picturing the two of them being intimate. He stopped in his tracks. I knew this wasn't betrayal. I had heard rumors before, that she won the ambassador position by capturing the Emperor's heart. I just remembered her diligent look watching Riola's files. Eel was a bit confused, her bright, smiling face shining in her memory. She seemed like a lovely and innocent woman. When she laughed, Eel was happier than ever. Instead of focusing on power, she followed me everywhere, trying to learn many things. Standing in front of my small house, he clenched his hand, but it seemed I was wrong. She was not a promiscuous or cruel woman as the rumors said, but now I realized the rumors that she was favored by the Emperor were true. Holding Ail's hand, I blamed myself for worrying about this. I should just do my job well. Ail's mother suddenly rushed out asking if everything was okay. He calmly entered the house. I'm fine, Mom. Eel turned around and praised. Good job. Did you meet Dukai with a high rank today? What about the Emperor? Did you meet the Emperor? Looking at the two younger siblings sleeping soundly on the sofa, Eel's mother continued, Mom, I heard the new ambassador isn't from a high-ranking family. She advised, you should try to maintain good relations with them while seeking better opportunities. Mom turned her head. Mom, he still laughs. Ha ha ha. What? Mom is wrong? I have to do well to meet the expectations of the Marquis. She raised the letter as Ail turned to the desk. The Marquis had sent a letter there. Ail was startled. What? She handed the letter to him, saying it seemed he had found out. You have a job at the Lakeside Palace. I'm going to my room now. Sleep well, Mom. He looked at the letter while greeting his mother. El opened the letter and read, You are so picky, I can't believe it. You chose to be the assistant to Ambassador Riola. I am very disappointed in you, El, but I'm sure you have your reasons for choosing such a position because that rank isn't very important, so you must have quite a bit of freedom. Therefore, completing your mission should be much easier. I'm sure you understand this better than anyone else. Eel, it's time for you to repay that huge debt to me. Reading this, Eel felt like a chain wrapped around his neck. He softly groaned. The blood of a hunting dog still flowing in his veins. That's why you must behave properly. Eel gasped. Haha, sweat dripping onto the paper. That alliance must be revived if you and your family want to survive. He stared intently at the paper, his face still haunted by horror. You must find and bring me the descendants of Enrin and Antu. Reading this, Eel silently told himself he just needed to complete the mission. That was all. Finally, the letter ended with a brief sentence. Time is running out. The next morning at a large and magnificent mansion, Jess leaned on the desk, tiredly laughing bitterly. Ha 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 ha. Eisen happily slapped his hand, joking around. His Majesty came to the Lakeside Palace again, stayed overnight with Miss Riola. Then he excitedly recounted. I swear I guarded the door all night, but in the morning when I checked, he was gone. I was shocked, and when I searched the whole room, I found a secret passage. Haha, recalling when I discovered the passage from the Emperor's wardrobe, Eisen laughed even louder. Then he grabbed his head and shouted, Can you imagine? I mean, he should have told me something. Eisen rolled his eyes, his mouth cursed as if about to spit fire. What kind of emperor runs away from his own captain? Of the royal guard. Then what's the point of appointing a captain? Why doesn't he just make things easy by firing me? I'd rather be a grass cutter in the horse stable than see Jess not caring and holding his face. Eisen whined. Jess, are you listening to me? Suddenly feeling strange, he asked. Why are you so down? Jess suddenly said, The test results from yesterday. Eisen hesitated. Was it that bad? Is it serious? Eisen rolled his eyes, his mouth cursing as if about to spit fire. What kind of emperor runs away from his own captain? The royal guards? Then what's the point of appointing a captain? Why doesn't he just make everything simpler by firing me? I'd rather be a grass cutter in the horse stable than see Jess not caring and holding his face with his hand. Eisen whined. Jess, are you listening to me? He suddenly felt strange and asked, Why are you so down? Jess suddenly said, The test results from yesterday. Eisen hesitated. Is it that bad? Is it serious? He has been cured. Jess bit his lip. What? Eisen was surprised. He pictured Hohan's condition inside his body, then explained that his fatigue level is 0. All internal injuries over the past 15 years have disappeared. So what about his lifespan? Jess collapsed onto the table in despair. I don't know either, but it seems he will live longer than me, who is already dead. Eisen shouted loudly. What? He grabbed Jess's shoulder and shook him. Are you sure you're not just too tired? Really? I mean, really? Could this happen? Jess helplessly let him shake his body. It's unbelievable, right? I can't believe it either until Eisen stopped. He announced to go to the lakeside palace early in the morning. On Hohan and Riola's side, Hohan was sleeping when suddenly a voice woke him up. Your Majesty, Your Majesty. He silently felt the gentle voice. Ha ha ha, opened his eyes wide when hearing the call again. Your Majesty. He woke up suddenly and asked Riola. Riola, are you awake? Riola screamed. Ah. She smiled brightly. Yes, Your Majesty. You overslept. I woke up before you, Riola proudly teased. Really? He also replied, but in his heart, Hohan secretly smiled. I guess she doesn't know she has slept for a whole day. The two exchanged passionate looks, and Hohan and Riola smiled happily, exchanging a deep kiss. Enough. That doesn't matter anymore. He pushed aside the previous thought and said, Good morning, Riola at the mansion. Lu stood outside the door and called out, Forgive me, Your Majesty. Lord Jess and Captain Aizen have arrived. Hohan inside the room seemed to ignore. He and Riola continued kissing for a while, then he stopped and left. His lips left her plump and sweet lips. Their eyes met, both faces slightly flushed. He smiled gently at her. She hesitated for a moment, then said, Your Majesty, your lips are so sweet. Yes, Riola blushed and continued. Like chocolate, so delicious. He leaned close to her ear and whispered, Do you want to taste more chocolate? She shyly replied, yes. Then he called out outside, order them to wait. We haven't finished tasting the chocolate yet. Lu outside the door whispered to Jess, I'm getting goosebumps. Jess joined in replying, Me too. Aizen, standing next to them, was full of question marks. He didn't understand what they were talking about, looking confused like a fawn. After waiting over an hour, Jess and Aizen were finally allowed into the room. Hohan coldly replied with one sentence. Oh, you two have been waiting all this time? They coincidentally arrived at the same time. Both sprayed their faces with displeasure. Huge question marks appeared clearly on their faces. Ha 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 ha. Sitting on the bed, looking up at Jess, he explained. Riola has woken up. Jess bowed his head. He replied, Yes, we already know. He continued, She was a bit thirsty, so I went to get her water. As usual, Jess replied, Yes, we know that too. Jess gently lifted his glasses. He thought that didn't matter anymore. Then he spoke. You already have the test results, Your Majesty. It's not related. Hohan stroked Riola's head, his eyes focused only on her. Not long after, he asked, How is it? Jess sighed silently, thinking the Emperor is deluded by love. But luckily, he is still sober enough to care about his health. Then Jess snapped out of his thoughts. He flipped through the papers in his hand and said, Do you want me to say it now? Hohan only replied with 2 words. Say it, Jess, seriously reported. As long as you are not assassinated by AI, I believe you will live to old age. Your fatigue has significantly decreased, and even the internal injuries you once suffered have healed. He said nothing, just silent. At this moment, Riola's thoughts appeared in her mind. This is an unbelievable result. But somehow I am not surprised, or in other words, I think you have been completely healed. Hohan's image appeared. The space around him cracked like a mirror. Today, Hohan intended to stand up, but he pondered. Although I know I cannot be healed, I strangely feel confident that... Suddenly, Hohan seemed illuminated. He woke up, his pupils dilated. The unfinished thought continued, I will not die. Jess suddenly, Riola spoke up. You said the Emperor is healthy now, right? Your Majesty, Jess. Her voice attracted his attention. He turned to look at her. Jess was fiery. He seemed ready to explode. What have we been talking about anyway? Seeing Jess angry, Hohan spoke to calm him down. Calm down. Jess, Riola is still not awake. Riola looked at Jess, confused Jess helplessly, exclaimed really. Then he lifted her hand to check her pulse. Her fatigue and exhaustion had significantly decreased compared to yesterday. Seeing that, Riola responded, That's right, I'm healthy now too. Jess sat down on the edge of the bed, angrily saying I didn't talk to her. Riola smiled brightly and replied, But I talked to you, Jess Hohan, only now speaking, Riola. Don't do that, Jess blushed happily. He thought joyfully in his heart. I knew His Majesty would take my side, but it seems he was too hasty, different from what he thought. Hohan smiled brightly, turned to Riola, held her hand, and said, You can only talk to me like that. Don't act so cute with anyone else. Then Riola and he smiled brightly at each other. A strong scent of love radiated around them. Seeing that, Aizen didn't dare to disturb His Majesty being intimate with his lover. He pulled Jess away, smiling, and said, We will take our leave first, Your Majesty. Jess was still enduring the shock from His Majesty. He was frozen, just someone else. It was like an arrow aimed straight at him. Scene change. Blue sky, white clouds, golden sunlight filtering through each window pane. A voice echoed in the room. I know it's hard to believe, but no matter how many times I check, the results remain the same. But before finishing, Jess had to stop. Aisle came in. I came here to discuss work, Hohan frowned. I told you to handle it yourself. Riola still needs to rest, AI pig, he gently replied. I understand that, Your Majesty. Yes. Then he knelt on one knee before him. I am here to report this matter to you. Your Majesty, he hesitated to report. AIL politely answered yes, then the room was filled with his voice. A letter just arrived from the Princess of the Riola Kingdom. According to the plan, she will arrive in 2 days, but Aisle hesitated and didn't dare to continue. You asked what happened, he continued. She was delayed due to an urgent matter, the health of her fiancé. The person accompanying her has worsened. Currently, her fiancé has to stay in bed. EL's words reminded him of the scene when he and Fabian faced each other. The image of him collapsing on the floor, he propped his chin thinking he hurt Riola. I guess he will be punished too. It seems Riola has accepted what happened, but is she really okay if she knows that he is close to death? Eel continued. So the princess requested the ambassador to meet them at Helton. Hohan shouted, "What? Ha ha." Eisen sitting next to him looked worried. He angrily clenched his hand. Cold eyes glanced at Hogan, calculating. It takes exactly 30 days to reach Hethelton by horse. He thought of the scene of many horses running on the road. Angry. How dare a princess of a small country demand the royal family like that? How dare she summon Riola? Hohan recalled Grota's image. Suddenly he stood up, angrily slammed the table. You said her fiancé is sick and about to die? Based on that ridiculous request, it's more like she's going crazy. Of course, I won't let Riola go there. Yes. Eel has been silent, listening all this time without speaking. Herhan's voice continued to echo. Not only that, no one in this palace will be sent to welcome them. If that person dies, tell them to send another letter. I will send a carriage to bring the body back. At least that can be done. Hearing the order, Eel replied, "Yes, Your Majesty." Ha ha ha. Turned and left. He didn't forget to remind to make sure Riola wouldn't know about this. Eisen immediately startled. Is that feasible? Even if we keep silent, the palace is already whispering about the rumors of the princess and her fiancé. Then Eisen's words made him stop. Cold eyes ordered it must be done no matter what. I will keep Riola in her room for a while. I will watch over her. Then his mind pictured the scene of Riola sleeping soundly on the bed. Eisen looked up, briefly surprised, but then bowed again. He pondered, guessing he wouldn't see her for a long time. As if sensing something, he glanced up, paying attention to Herhan, who was surrounded by a fierce aura. Glancing at Eisen and Jess confusedly looking at him, he was silent, then changed attitude, smiling brightly with a radiant smile and said, "Any other issues?" When meeting Eisen, he lowered his face, sweating profusely, not daring to utter a word. Jess could only sigh, thinking, is he threatening us? He looked bored and replied, "No. We will try." Scene change. The sky is clear and cool, while Eisen is sitting in the office. He thought to himself he was hallucinating. Why does it feel like since the last time meeting the ambassador, his work has multiplied many times? Eisen tiredly took off his glasses. His blue eyes looked up, and he remembered Herhan's face earlier in the room. He hesitated, pondering that expression of his lord, when suddenly a voice rang out, cutting through Eisen's thoughts. "Vice Lord, I brought you some food," said a maid who entered cheerfully. "Everyone has noticed you've been working too hard lately. We're worried that you're overworking yourself," she said, placing the tray of food down and noticing the pile of documents and pen on the table. She asked in surprise, "Did you do all this yourself?" Eisen responded indifferently, "Yes, that's right." Then the maid gently pushed the tray of food toward him, hesitating as she advised, "But you need to rest your hands a bit. I baked some cakes for you, Vice Lord." He looked at the tray of cakes before him, thinking she must be a maid from the lakeside palace. Then somehow, the scene of the lakeside garden appeared. The maid continued, asking, "By the way, have you been to the lakeside palace garden? The flowers there are all in full bloom this season, and the fragrance is wonderful. It will lift your spirits." Eisen thought to himself, "Sounds boring. It would just waste my time." He hesitated and replied, "I haven't." Before he finished, the maid added, "I think Miss Riola would like it very much too." He paused. "Ambassador? What?" He lightly tapped his head, recalling Riola's image. His face flushed as he touched his forehead. A few pink streaks appeared on his face. Why am I suddenly thinking about that moment? The maid hurried over, worried, asking, "Are you all right, sir? Are you sick? Your face is very red. Maybe you have a fever." He raised his hand to stop her. Her hand touched his. "I'm fine. I'll rest a bit and come back soon. Oh, could you show me the way to the garden? There's a pavilion in the middle of the lake for resting." He slowly walked along the hallway, thinking to himself, "In the end, I still came here. I didn't expect such a place to exist in the palace. Lakeside Palace. I think the ambassador will really like the flowers. I'll just take this one." Suddenly, a sharp voice yelled, "How dare you pick flowers from the Lakeside Palace garden? You'll be in trouble if Miss Riola finds out." He looked up, thinking, "Who is that walking beside Riola?" He shyly asked, "Do you like the chocolate I brought?" Riola looked surprised. "Chocolate? She blushed deeply, her face red as a boiled shrimp, remembering His Majesty and herself. "So that's how it is," she stammered. I think it's very delicious. Thank you, sir." He glanced at her face, thinking she looked embarrassed. "Why?" She lowered her eyes, lost in thought, not noticing the hand waving at her. "So it's the ambassador's chocolate. I didn't even know," she said, embarrassed. She stood still, lost in thought. He raised his hand to shield her from the sunday. Gently, he asked, "Are you okay?" The two stood like that under the gentle, cool sunlight. The atmosphere seemed to freeze. She spoke, breaking the silence in the bright, flower-filled garden. "Thank you, sir. You are so thoughtful. I will always stand by you whenever you need me." His cheeks flushed again. Her words always brought comfort to my heart. Riola Benito, butterflies fluttering over the pure white flower bushes. He called her ambassador, thinking, "Every time I'm with her, a different me I never knew arises." He handed her a freshly picked lily flower branch, bashfully lowering his head. "Here, it smells very nice." She took the flower branch and smiled gently. "It's so beautiful. Are you sure you want to give this to me? You're so kind and thoughtful. I bet you'll make the one you love very happy." She smiled brightly, her eyes curved joyfully under the sunlit canopy. He silently admired her ability to make meaningless things special, to the point that I can't stop craving it. Suddenly, a head popped out from behind the bushes, loudly calling, "Miss Riola!" Startled, Miss Riola turned as Lulu ran up, grabbing her arm and quickly reminding her, "Miss, it's time to go." "Oh, Ambassador, hello," she spoke hurriedly. "I think I have to return now. Thank you for the flowers. See you later, sir." He raised his hand to his forehead, exhaling deeply. "Ah, I feel hot. Evening." A servant respectfully handed over a letter to the princess. "There is a letter from the palace, ma'am." Greta reached out to take it. "Really?" After reading the letter, she thought to herself, "I guess he has gone mad." Her lips, tightly pressed, suddenly parted into a smile. As she walked away, she calculated, "Yes, this is exactly the reaction I wanted to see." The door to the room opened, and she stepped inside. Standing beside Fabian's bed, she called, "Fabian! Fabian!" He sat up worriedly. "Your Highness, did something happen?" "What?" He was stunned when she replied, "Riola sent a letter, Fabian."